This is the Breaking Up with Binge Eating podcast, where every listen moves you one step closer to complete food freedom. Hosted by me, Georgie Fear, and my team at Confident Eaters. By this point in the series, you might be thinking, okay, I understand the pressure. I get why urges happen. I even know what to do in the moment. And then a new worry often shows up. What if I do this wrong? What if I don't do enough? What if I do it for a while, but then relax and things get worse? If those thoughts are familiar, I want to slow this down. That fear doesn't mean you're resistant to recovery. It usually means you've spent a long time holding yourself together through effort. When effort has been your survival strategy, letting up even a little can feel dangerous. So today's episode is intentionally not about pushing you to do more. It's about offering relief. I'm thinking of a client I worked with who said to me, almost nervously, "I think I'm doing this wrong, Georgie. I'm just not trying as hard anymore." She told me she always used to be 100% focused on something hard. The Whole30 or tracking macros or sticking to some paleo meal plan she saw on Pinterest. There was always a program, a plan, or a performance goal. But recently, she wasn't obsessing about food or her eating habits. She was eating more regularly. She still had urges sometimes, but they felt quieter. And instead of feeling proud, she actually felt scared, like she'd gotten lazy, like she was taking a shortcut or cheating or something. And then she said something that really stood out. She felt an itch to go find another meal plan, or even latch on to some extreme physical goal, like training for an ultramarathon or entering a fitness competition. And it wasn't because she wanted to do these things, it was because intensity felt familiar. What she was actually describing was not failure, it was progress. It was stabilization. Her system wasn't spiking and crashing all the time anymore. And because she had spent so many years equating 100% effort with doing a good job, the relative calm felt unfamiliar. That moment comes up for a lot of people in recovery. Things start to feel less dramatic, and instead of relief, we get suspicious. If I'm not white-knuckling this, am I doing enough? This episode is here to answer that question gently. Stability in the recovery context isn't a personality trait. It isn't a lifestyle overhaul. It isn't becoming someone who never struggles. Stability is simply your system knowing what to expect most of the time. And that predictability matters more than most people realize. When meals are reasonably regular, when rest shows up often enough, and when pressure isn't constantly spiking, your nervous system can stand down. It doesn't have to stay on high alert. This is why stability reduces eating struggles. Emotional eating becomes less frequent because the system isn't constantly screaming for relief. And when emotional eating is less urgent, it's much less likely to escalate into losing control or binge eating. It's the same system, less pressure. I also want to name something that often goes unspoken. A lot of people are afraid of stability because they associate it with losing control. They worry if they stop monitoring themselves so closely, everything will fall apart. If that's you, I want you to understand that finding yourself in a period of stability does not mean you've let yourself go. It's not giving up. And it's not permission to spark chaos just to feel that adrenaline of trying hard again. Stability comes from support. Support means your body isn't bracing all day for the next restriction, correction, or improvement plan. Support means you don't have to earn food, rest, or relief by being good enough first. So how do we create stability? First, consistent nourishment. This doesn't mean perfect meals or ideal nutrition every time, but it means eating often enough and eating enough at each eating occasion that your body isn't left guessing about when relief is coming or if the next meal will be skipped. When food is unpredictable or unreliable, pressure builds quietly. You might feel fine until suddenly you're not. Consistent nourishment lowers that baseline urgency and makes urges less sharp even before you start working on anything else. Second, predictable rhythm. Humans feel safer when there are gentle anchors in our day. Not rigid schedules, just reliable patterns. Meals that happen roughly at the same times, evenings that have some sort of wind down, transitions that don't require sprinting like you're in a triathlon trying to get from the bike to the run. Rhythm tells your nervous system nothing urgent is required right now, things are going on as usual. Without rhythm, everything can feel like an emergency, and emergencies invite intensity. Third, humanizing your standards. This is where a lot of relief lives. Many people are trying to stabilize while still holding themselves to perfectionist rules, eating the right foods, responding to urges the right way, feeling the right emotions and never the wrong ones. But perfectionist standards create pressure, which actively undermines stability. So here's a question. What's the simplest support plan you can repeat most days? Not the optimized version, not the version that proves you're serious, the version that's repeatable, even crappy day proof. A routine lunch that you actually eat is far more stabilizing than an ideal lunch that you skip because it's bland. A consistent bedtime is more regulating than a perfect 18-step nighttime routine that you can't maintain. A good enough response to your urges builds more trust than waiting until you do it perfectly. You do not stabilize by fixing everything. You stabilize by reducing volatility. Fewer extreme highs and lows, fewer all or nothing swings, fewer days that require intensive recuperation afterward. That kind of steadiness is deeply regulating. Stability does not mean urges are gone. Sorry. It means that they show up with less intensity, less urgency, and less authority. When your system is fed, rested, and supported most of the time, when you know what's coming, urges don't have to scream. They can just knock and let you know what you need. So if you're listening and thinking, I'm just not that consistent yet, I still have off days, it doesn't mean you're failing. You're just human. Stability is built slowly, through repetition, not one perfect performance. This week, I don't want you to overhaul your life or add difficult new rules. I want you to pick one stabilizing anchor, something small and repeatable that feels almost too easy. If you think, no, that's boring, that might be the right one. That might be eating breakfast most days. It might be adding an afternoon snack. It might be going to bed 30 minutes earlier. Or maybe ending your day without doing one more task in the kitchen. Choose the option that feels least dramatic and most supportive. The goal isn't to feel amazing. The goal is to feel less on edge. Because when pressure goes down, capacity goes up. And when capacity goes up, food doesn't have to work nearly as hard. In the next episode, we'll apply this stability lens to a very common experience, nighttime eating, and why evenings are often where pressure finally shows itself. I'm Georgie Fear. I'm really glad you're with me, and I'll see you next week.